Tesla sales have been plunging across Europe, perhaps across the world. We've been covering this story for a while, and I said when we got the numbers out of Germany, we would come back and tell you whether it's true, partially true, or complete nonsense. Well, it is that time. I brought back my buddy Herbert because he follows the numbers about as closely as anyone, I think. And he is not only a bright guy, but he makes us brighter with his channel. Check him out, Brighter with Herbert. I'm Brian. Welcome to Futuraza. So you've seen the headlines, you know the news. It's all bad news. Tesla sales plunges across Europe. And we've seen that in some countries it's actually up, but in many countries it's down. Tesla sales were down sharply in April. UK, Netherlands, Denmark, Portugal, Sweden, France, and now we know Germany. So in the UK, one of the few markets where Tesla reported stronger sales, April sales plunged 62%. Maybe that's the delivery wave. The drop even came as overall EV sales rose 8% in the country. Tesla sales were also down 67% in Denmark, 74% in the Netherlands. These are big, big drops. And across Europe, and of course, we've got to get a fair and balanced picture here because, because sensationalism sells. So what we'll get into some charts in a second. But yeah, what's going on?
What's going on? So first of all, this is not the only article. I took a look at Google News yesterday, the first page, 23 articles. They're all just like this. Sales plummet everywhere. They're all just taking it and going with it. Now, first of all, we don't know what's going on, right? Is sales falling or not selling? Well, first of all, let's take a look and pause for a second. This is April. It's common in April for numbers to be lower because the deliveries of the new Model Ys are still going to be sent out from Giga Berlin to these countries. Jeff Watts pointed out that if you take a step back and take a look at each of these countries and you do a search, go on to the website, Tesla website, pretend that you live in, name the country, Sweden or whatever it is, and then say you want to buy a car. You won't see any you won't see inventory available. What does that mean? That means that cars are not, it's not demand issue. It means there's a supply issue. They have not yet delivered these. And it's quite common, according to Jeff, that when you got the new Model Ys, they shut down the factory. There's 100,000 cars less made in the first quarter of last year. So then everybody assumed that they're already now at scale. That is true, but it still takes time for them to be sent from the factory to these countries. And that's what you're seeing in April. So even though the numbers are down, part of it is because of that. To assume that it's all because of demand issues, because of political issues, that's again just not completely looking at the full picture. So I'm not ready to say that sales have plummeted. We'll have to compare these numbers specifically.
I did not see the days of inventory swell the way I would have expected if there was a lot in transit at the end of the quarter. So I'm not sure what the problem is. Let's look at some more charts here because I'm sure we've got, if you're not following Roland Pircher at Pololi, maybe you should. He is really good with his charts. Tesla sales are split between 5.3 thousand Model Y and 2,000 Model 3 in China last week. That is a really weak start, but I believe those are domestic sales and do not include exports. But they don't export, well, I guess they do export Model 3s. Yeah, that's true. They export both, but that is pretty unusual numbers. Yeah. Because going back to the first week of January, I guess it is a big improvement over January. And then there's the refresh. Okay. Does this concern you?
Not yet. I mean, again, we have to wait and see what's going on here. Yeah. 30% down from last week, but we'll have to follow through.
Shanghai wholesale fell to 58,000, the lowest first month of the quarter since the last 10 quarters. You can see, that's not super exciting. More China stuff here, I believe. Yep. Let's get into, so here's some other countries. Denmark reported 180 Tesla sales, 1.2 market share in April.
That's the problem. Yeah, the problem is that these are very tiny numbers. And so when you see these plummet by 67%, whatever it is, they're small numbers. And each country is going to be very different from other countries. There's no doubt that there's some countries that's going to be like, they decide not to buy it because of their hatred for Elon. there's some of that that can happen, but it's not going to be across the board. Every single country is feeling the same way.
If we could break out Model 3 sales, that might give us a better picture. I have seen some real statistical noise from people saying, if you look at Europe, if you look at the EU, Model 3 sales are way down from last year. And I say, yes, but in June of last year, they imposed a steep new tariff on the Model 3. That's going to impact sales. That's the whole point of the tariff. So they, comparing a vehicle that cost thousands less to the exact same vehicle that now for no reason costs thousands more, I think will give you an incomplete picture. What have we got here? Tesla software. Okay, that's not relevant to it. Let's see more charts. Germany reported 885 Tesla sales in April. This is where they're made. Why is it so low in its home market? Can they really not build enough of them? Is the change, because we saw a fantastic bunch of numbers out of China. Why would Germany be struggling so mightily to update the factory?
Yeah. Remember that in Germany, it's a very different kind of country. I think that 55%, 60% of all sales in of cars in Germany is through not to consumers. They're sold to corporations who buy them as employee cars. There's all sorts of potential reasons here.
So why
Don't
would
know.
they not buy them? If the companies have stopped buying them because they don't like Tesla, that's brand damage. I mean, I don't know what else to call it. If it's somehow motivated by something other than cost and value, unless it no longer represents a solid cost and value. But as a domestically made product, I would think that it would be cost competitive and have in many for many use cases better features than the competition. What's going on?
Yeah.
Because the Germany numbers, I said I would withhold judgment until we saw them, and then we saw them, and they're not good. They are, to me, deeply concerning because this is where they're made. These should be flowing out the door every day. And I understand that Germany is the export hub for the region, but the region is not that big. It doesn't take 2 months to get cars out. It doesn't take
Yeah.
the whole quarter. It takes a couple weeks to move units all the way across the European Union at most, if you're going the slowest route possible. So I find that concerning. The UK, less worried about. They've got to, with how strong the sales were in the previous months, this just tells me they're not shipping. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, again, this is Jeff Lutz, who did a deep analysis. He does not think that there is brand damage. He thinks that this is units in shipping. And he said that it does take a lot longer than what you just said, 2 weeks to get from one country to the other country. So,
Well, it's not like they're putting them on boats that have to
true.
get around continents. They're putting them on trains, which indicates a much shorter distance. Uh, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of things that I'm not excited about here. Let's see what the next one we've got is. Spain, um, a strong quarter, I suppose. Stronger than, yeah, that's not too bad. It's not as bad.
Yeah.
But
I mean, so I guess the question is whether or not you think that this is brand damage, or do you think that
mhm,
this is because of the tariff war, the economy? People are very concerned about what's happening globally. People are pausing purchases, large purchases like this, to see what happens, and they're still waiting it out.
I've read that auto sales are down in Europe. EV sales are up. EV sales are strongly up. Tesla's not part of that party just yet, but that auto sales overall are down. So not great. Um, and the charts just keep going. There's not a lot of bright spots in this. At what point do we say, because it doesn't matter to me whether it's brand damage, whether it's tariffs, I mean, to me, there's two factors, supply or demand. At what point can we stop saying that the problem is the supply? At what
Yeah,
point can we
I've heard
assume that
people
they
tell
should be
me,
fully ramped?
right, that actually you certainly could not have used the first quarter. And it's
Certainly not.
actually in June, that's when you might be able to start using those numbers. Now we're still in April, April, May, June. So whether or not you can start using the April numbers to tell you something, because what happens is in the first quarter, it kind of spills over when you're taking a look at the first month here too. Like things have just been completely disrupted. It's not just secluded into that first quarter. So it really has to be until June when you can finally say, okay, here's clean numbers. I think AJ was the one, another guy that you should follow on the account. He's one of the best analysts out there. He's the one who said that it's actually June that's where everything is cleared up. And that's when you can finally see what is the real numbers, what's the true impact.
AJ has awfully good insights on things like this. He's very good with financials and analysis. Um, yeah, we have to, I think, get real a bit and acknowledge that something that there are concerns. I've seen people. I think you and I were on a live stream together with someone. Yeah, that's right. It was the big show we did, where they were saying, "Oh, I think sales are going to be up for the year." I was like, I do not know
Well, you
what
gotta
inspires that
again.
degree of
Well,
confidence.
there's a couple of reasons, right? So one is okay. Let's assume, and again, nobody's saying that there isn't brand damage, but let's say there is.
Oh,
You know,
plenty are saying it. Plenty are saying that.
China is not brand damage. Okay, there's no
Hmm.
brand issue there. If
Hmm.
sales fall there, it's other reasons other than brand damage. You agree with that?
I would
Could
agree
there
with
be
that.
brand damage in Europe? Sure, absolutely there is. There can be. And could there be in the US? Sure, but in the US you have to balance it between more purchases by Republicans versus Democrats, or like more purchases by people, because it kind of like right there's brand enhancement and brand damage, and so the kind of some of that you might be flash. Now, what happens though from now on, right? So from now on, you got the new Model Y, which you have to agree is a killer. Like it's a great product, better than the
Hmm.
old Model Y. If it's going to sell better than the old Model Y, whether or not now other issues could make it less sales, economy, macro, those kind of things, but it's a better car. Now you got two more affordable vehicles coming. That difference between a sub $30,000 car, even just anything breaking under 35,000, is a massive, massive difference. Selling a car over 35,000 versus selling it under 35,000, it unlocks a massive market. Okay. So all of Tesla's cars are really at the high end premium priced. They're finally breaking through the sub 35,000. That's going to break open. So people think, okay, that can happen. Now, we did hear Tesla say that I can't remember the exact words, but basically that they're not expecting to scale the new, more affordable vehicles the ramp is not going to be as fast as they initially thought they might be for the second half. So I kind of like, okay, maybe that's going to go down. They're not as big a deal. But you've got that, and then you've got full self-driving. So when full self-driving, as you saw, went viral in China, very, very positive reviews, clearly now better than all the other Chinese ADAS systems, does that not add on uh, a demand driver for the cars? Because now when you buy a car, you know that it's coming with FSD or the ability to make this thing a better car than anybody else out there. And so there should be something there. Now, if Robotaxi launches in June and the FSD is shown to be the next version of FSD is a leap forward than what we have now, could it be enough that then people realize that this is a real value proposition that they can't get? You're talking, I'm buying cars, so I want to compare price, I want to compare range, I want to compare, maintenance, all these things. But then this thing changes this car. It's all of a sudden the value of the cars will go up because people realize that they can be used for a robotaxi. Full self-driving is the most safe car in the world. It'll do collision avoidance on its own. You know, um, it can give you that ability to relax and rest while you're driving. This could be a demand driver. Now, I'm not one who believes that we're going to hit 2 million cars this year, but there's some people who still believe that they're going to hit 2.2 million cars this year versus the 1.8. I'm still at the 1.8, but there are some people who those are the reasons that they would give you.
And these are smart people who do plenty of research. They're just wrong. So, hey,
Mhm.
guys, I've got two more very exciting and difficult questions for Herbert, which I'm looking forward to the answers of. But I wanted to mention that you can subscribe. Please subscribe. When I hit 100,000, I will stop begging, I promise. And check out Herbert while you're at it. The first question is uh, FSD in China. Are you seeing a lot of comments like I am every time I make a video about China? I am flooded with comments that say, nope, Tesla FSD is garbage in China. Every other brand is better, or these specific brands are better. And I've got one video I can link to prove it, because, of course, one video is proof. Uh, what do you make of that?
Okay, well, so there's a huge difference between what we're seeing coming out of China a month ago, 2 months ago, than it is now.
Hmm.
So before FSD beta was released, supervised FSD was released in China, that's everything we saw. Everybody kept saying, "Yeah, but you don't know what we've seen." Your friend out of spec, he
Hmm.
went there and had a guy who owned a Huawei, um, and was it an Avatar?
Hmm.
And he showed that it has its version of FSD, and he said that it's better than Tesla. It's so good. And that video went viral because they showed
Hmm.
this car doing this. And everybody kept saying, Huawei's better. Everyone's better. Since Tesla released their full self driving, there's been a number of viral videos going crazy in social media. And it's almost, 99% the same thing, which is they've proven now that Tesla's FSD is way better than all the other systems. I just did a show where this blogger who's well known as an expert who does a comparison, and he said that here's 7 different automakers.
Hmm.
He
I
didn't want
heard
to
it.
name them, but it's
Mhm.
very clear that Tesla is number one, way above everyone else, and he compared exactly the differences between the others. So at this point, I think it's hard pressed for anybody to say that Huawei and others. The other thing to remember is that these other Chinese automakers, they have small numbers of cars. So you might go and say Huawei's better and they're like so much better than F, but they only available in a small premium category of one of their lines of their cars that they sell less than 20,000 of them kind of thing. It's not something that they've done across the board. So,
Well,
um,
Huawei now is all of their new cars do have autonomy.
it's a
Um,
version of ADAS. Yeah.
a version. So, but I would say that first of all, those claims that I see are dishonest. And again, I've been there, I've experienced it. There are some good ones. There are some genuinely terrifyingly bad ones. Um, but uh, okay, that's a good answer. And my last question, this is the big one. When the more affordable model is released, do you think we're going to see a price cut on Model 3?
No, it's the opposite. You want to have
But no one's
separation.
buying the model. I mean, if, if it people aren't going to buy the Model 3 just because it's more expensive.
They have to do a good job of separating the brand. So you got the Model Y, Model 3. When we were all before the Model 3 refresh, before the Model Y refresh, you and I kept saying that they need to make the Model 3 more sportier, and it needs to be a lower cost vehicle to have that separation. Because we're all wondering why the Model 3 is not selling way more than it should be. It's selling fine, but it should be selling way more than it is. It is a
I agree.
fantastic car. I've got one myself. It is a beautiful car. It is perfect in almost all ways, and I'm shocked
Handles
that it's
like a
not selling.
dream, fun.
Don't know
Yeah,
why it's
it's a
not
great
selling
car.
as much as Model Y. It could be because it's a segment, right? So people do prefer the larger SUV versus a sedan kind of car. So when they sell these more affordable vehicles, if it's a compact car, they've got to have price points that are fully separated. If there is an ability to lower the Model 3 price, but yet keep that segmentation separated, great. Then they should. But I'm not going to expect it.
I'm going to take the opposite side as we wrap up and say that price doesn't have to be the segmentation. Form factor
Yeah.
and
Yep.
utility can be the segmentation, because I don't look at the price of different form factors. If I'm shopping for a sedan or I'm shopping
Mhm.
for an SUV, that's what I'm
Yeah.
shopping for. And I think they can differentiate it in other ways. And I hope they'll cut the price because
Yeah.
I do want them to sell more. I think it's a fantastic car and they've got surplus capacity to build more. Guys in the comments, what do we miss? What do we misunderstand? Stay tuned, stay juicy, and leave all of it because I just can't get enough. And I cannot wait to hear it from you, clever robots on the flippity flop.